Hey guys, Kyle Coggins here, and I just got out of seeing Blade Runner 2049. Boy, I knew 2049 was going to be good. Why did I know that? Because the director, Denis Villeneuve, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he said the reason why he elected to direct the film because he didn't want nobody else to screw it up, which is hilarious. Sometimes you could trust that, sometimes you can't. But the 1982 Blade Runner isn't a necessity to watch Blade Runner 2049, but I highly suggest you do. It brings back so many different story elements that even though they explain it very, very well in 2049, because you already know those story points, and you just have a greater understanding of what's being talked about, which brings you more emotionally into the movie. It's not popular, but I'm not a big fan of the original movie. Granted, I watched it 2 weeks ago, and it's a little dated, but I'm not a big fan of it. It focuses on this when Ridley Scott, the director, creates this whole new world, but he chooses to focus right here, which is cool. And I mean, for that time, that movie is bonkers crazy. It didn't hit home for me though. But the world Ridley Scott created with the replicas and the Tyrell Corporation and all that stuff, man, it really got me excited for this movie. And if you saw the original, I do believe that Harrison Ford is and I believe that because of the unicorn dream and because of the what's it called, like a something agami, the paper mache things that people make. The unicorn, I believe it because of that. And if you watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But with that said, 2049, the original concepts really play into the movie. 2049 is about a new Blade Runner, Ryan Gosling, and he's tasked to bury a secret that could potentially it could throw society into chaos. He discovers this lead, and on the quest, he has to find Deckard, Harrison Ford, the Blade Runner from 1982, and he's been missing for 30 years. Besides that, I mean, that's all I can talk about. I mean, 2049 takes you on this unique journey, and the entire film is a spoiler. I'm talking about from the opening, the first 5 minutes of the movie is a spoiler. Like, everything that's said spoils there's nothing that I can talk about from a story aspect that won't be a spoiler of some kind, man. This movie does a great job at peppering in certain dialogue, and the movie doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but everything that's said, man, it's one of those movies that they tell you exactly what's going to happen from the opening frame, from the conversations that happens and things that Batista says, things that Ryan Gosling says, and at the end of the movie, you're just like, oh, yeah, this is all this. He said all this, but yeah, the whole thing is a spoiler. There's nothing I can really talk about. The movie it starts with a spoiler, then it completely derails, and you're in your thought process, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and then it ends and you're like, boo! You're like, man, all this just happened, and it's crazy, man. The movie makes you feel like a replica in this Dystonian world. Like, the way the music crashes down on you and then it stops and then the music comes in hard, you feel this pressure, this overwhelming feeling, and to me it made me feel like, man, like if I was a replica, this is exactly how I would feel in this world, in this moment. And even though it's overwhelming, it's amazing, and it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. Every frame in this movie is like a poem. I honestly, the way I was describing it, if I had to write a paper on this movie, I can literally write one paper on every single frame. Like back in the day, Ridley Scott did these lighting tricks with the 1982 version, and Denis Villeneuve, the director, he takes some of those cool lighting tricks and he does it in this movie. which is really cool because it's modern day lighting tricks and it's all natural light, which is really cool. But every frame of this movie is beautiful. It's like its own story. There's this one scene in the movie I can talk about, and Ryan Gosling has this. He's like gonna have sex with his girlfriend, kind of, and the scene is so technologically crazy, weird, and sexy, and it's just like, yo, how did they do this? This is so creative. How did they pull this off? I mean, I already talked about how the dialogue, there's hardly any dialogue, but it works. Sometimes dialogue isn't needed. You get everything with the face and the eyes, and if you watch the 1982 version, you know that the eyes play a big factor in everything. I think Ryan Gosling's a treasure to the world of film, man. The role he played kind of reminded me of him in Driver, if you've seen Driver, with a little twist, and he's great. Harrison Ford, since I just saw the original Blade Runner, that was from a time when he used to play play Han Solo. So seeing him in this film, and since they bring back story beats of the original, there are some voiceovers from the original, and hearing that voice, I think of Han Solo, and it's hilarious. Maybe you won't, but I do. I love Star Wars. The movie's long, man. The movie runs 2 hours and 45 minutes, but honestly, even though with its mellow pace, I could have sat through another 2 hours of that movie. Like, it was so beautiful, and the concepts, and man, I'm so happy that Sony and Columbia Pictures, Sony produced it, Columbia distributed it. They allowed the director to make this long film. Most studios won't do that because they're like, oh, we got to make money. We got to fit this time frame so we can show the movie X amount of times per day to get that value. And a 3-hour movie just doesn't cut it, but they let him do his movie, and I'm so happy they let him do this runtime for this movie. There's some funny product placement in the movie with Sony and Black Label, Johnny Walker. It's pretty funny, and you'll see it. It's just going to be like, oh, wow, okay, they really wanted you to see that label. One issue that I had with the movie, since it's such a long runtime, I felt like I didn't get to see as much as Jared Leto that I wanted to. I mean, he's in the movie, but his assistant's in the movie more than he is. But his character is so interesting and odd, and he's now the new in the original. The Tyrell Corporation is the one who makes the replicas. Now Wallace Corporation, Jared Leto's corporation, makes the replicas. I'm wearing the shirt, Wallace Corporation. He makes it, and he's so weird and cool, and the things that he says makes you really think about today's world and how we can possibly lead to something like this. And it's just, man, I just love the one he was talking on screen. Man, all in all, man, I'd be shocked if this movie doesn't get any Oscar buzz, especially for cinematography and best director. Like, this movie is fantastic, and I'm probably going to go check it out in IMAX because of how beautiful it is. But you have to see this movie. This movie is awesome, man. Thank you guys for watching, man. I really enjoyed making this spoiler-free review, even though it's really hard to make a spoiler-free review on this movie, and I hope when you see it, or if you see it, you'll understand why. But I'd love to continue this conversation after you watch the movie. But thank you guys. I highly recommend this movie. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it.